On March 31st, Tourmaline Energy CEO Mike Rose appeared on the BNN Bloomberg show to talk about American and Canadian natural gas prospects. And he made a very interesting argument. He said that there are a number of U.S. shale basins that are getting close to 50% production, and that they would be tipping into production decline. And on top of that, U.S. LNG capacity is going to double in the next 2-3 years. And all of that would create a shortage of gas that Canadian producers could then backfill. It's a very interesting argument. It's one I hadn't run across before. So I wanted to see what the Americans had to say. So I'm going to talk to Ed Hurst, who's an energy economist at the University of Houston, about this. Welcome to the interview, Ed.
Thank you, Markham.
Look, on the face of it, like Mike Rose is a geologist, been in the business for a long time up in Canada. This is his take. What's your take on what he said about U.S. shale basins productivity?
I think what we're seeing with the shale basins is that they have plenty of room to go. You know, the Marcellus and the Utica are not nearly at full capacity, primarily because nobody was able to get the Atlantic or the Constitution pipelines through during the Trump years. And so they're kind of forced to make do with the takeaway capacity that's been in place for the last 10 years. That, you know, they could expand production tremendously and still not have enough takeaway capacity to manage. The Barnett Shale, for example, has got, I think, 3 working development rigs right now. For a long time, it didn't have any rigs at all, and that's because that shale is a little more expensive to get natural gas from. The Haynesville is very prolific. There's been a big consolidation there, also among the companies, and this is really driven by finance. Today, the price of natural gas is wavered between $2.10 an MCF and about $2.60 an MCF. Keep in mind that the marginal cost of producing natural gas from the Marcellus, the Utica, is somewhere around $1.25, $1.50. Even a dozen years ago, the marginal cost of producing natural gas was about $1 an MCF. We really haven't seen that change very much, and that's for the dedicated gas plays. Add on to this the associated gas that comes from the oil plays in the United States, and because of the methane restrictions that are being put into place, we're going to see much more of that gas get to market out of the DJ Basin, out of the Bakken, out of the Permian Basin. And some geologists are arguing that, well, we're reaching a point with the oil plays that they're turning more to gas. And so I expect to see a lot more gas coming forward over the next couple of years.
Now, in fairness to Rose, he makes the argument that we won't see what he claims is likely to happen until about mid-decade, maybe 2025, 26, somewhere in there. Is there any chance that between now and then, things will change in those U.S. basins?
Yeah, I certainly don't think so. That's not what the owners of those resources are pitching in their books. They have a tremendous inventory yet to go, and there are technological advances that come along. Keep in mind that Apache wrote off Alpine High, a huge gas play out in West Texas, but that doesn't mean they actually walked away from it. They are drilling it, developing it piecemeal, and if they can get some pipeline capacity through, perhaps taking it to Mexico or to LNG export facilities on the Texas Gulf Coast, that play is going to become a new barn burner in America.
What about the argument that the U.S. has emerged as a major LNG exporter, and capacity on the U.S. Gulf Coast is forecast to double in the next? Is there any chance that will create a shortage in domestic gas production?
It's certainly unlikely. I think today LNG exports make up about 10 or 12% of demand across U.S. supply. In our analysis of this, we don't see it being that much of a strain on the domestic supply. The issue is price, of course, and $7 gas is certainly different than $2.50 gas. You know, we saw the price bump up to $9, $10 last summer, and that was mainly panic buying. I mean, every Uber driver I know in Texas was buying natural gas futures at the time, and thinking, well, we've got to get this to Ukraine, we've got to get this to Europe. And now, of course, we've oversupplied everybody, and gas producers are shutting in and delaying drilling right now. That's not a geological problem. That's just a market problem.
Well, I'm kind of interested about the Permian Basin because I had heard that was quite a bit of natural gas, methane, basically, that was being released because there was no takeaway capacity. And it seems like now with the new methane emissions, and I understand that there have been some pipelines in the past year or two that have been completed, will that make a significant increase to the amount of gas production that comes out of the Permian?
Yes, it will. You know, we've never really had a handle on how much was flared. You know, 1%, 2% of production, kind of hard to guess. But now with the pipes going down to Corpus Christi and over to Houston and then into Mexico, there's guaranteed takeaway capacity, and we're going to see that new supply run right in. You know, keep in mind that as the Permian matures, and it's been going pretty strong for the last 7 or 8 years, we're going to see a transition, and folks will go for the natural gas, which of course has not been the high dollar target. The high dollar target is oil at $70 a barrel, $75 a barrel. Most of the shale wells in the Permian can make money at that price.
Well, is there a final question, Ed? There had been talk in years past of individual Canadian gas producers setting up marketing agreements with customers down in the U.S. Gulf Coast as a means of diversifying their customer base. Do you see any opportunity for Canadian producers in the, let's say, in the Texas market, in the Permian market?
Well, they just need access, and they need a pipe. And it sounds like from the discussion, there are going to have to be some pipes built to run the gas out of Canada. That's another issue altogether. You know, that's not one that's dictated by industry. It's dictated by our governments. And so you know, anything's conceivable. But, you know, keep in mind, to run that gas down to the Gulf Coast, you're going to be running it through the Rockies. And the Rockies have a surfeit of gas right now. They've had plenty of gas. They're trying to get it out to the West Coast and to the East Coast. But you know, the dynamics of the flows are such that adding a new supply from Canada, you know, may not be economically feasible either for the Canadians or for the U.S. industry.
Well, Ed, as always, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure, Markham.